The day my life flipped upside down started with a plate of scrambled eggs and a fake smile. I still remember the way the morning light hit the kitchen counter, how my mom's voice was just a little too cheerful, and how my dad kept tapping his wedding ring against his coffee mug like a metronome, as if rehearsing a speech in his head. My name's Trevor, and I was 18 when they sat me down that morning, 1 week before I was supposed to move into my college dorm. I'd spent the last year obsessively planning every detail, registering for orientation, shopping for secondhand textbooks, working nights at the grocery store to afford dorm decorations, and a decent laptop. I had a spreadsheet for everything. I even bought one of those tiny dorm-size fridges because I read somewhere that campus dining gets old fast. For most of high school, I'd been the quiet, responsible one in our family, the kind of kid who got straight A's, didn't go to parties, and stayed out of trouble. Not because I was scared of consequences, but because I thought it would mean something. I thought if I worked hard and didn't make waves, someone would notice. Maybe not with big dramatic praise or anything, but with little things, like keeping their promises. Like paying for the tuition they said they'd been saving for since I was 12. So that morning, when my mom said, "Trevor, sweetie, your dad and I need to talk to you about something important," I just smiled and took another bite of eggs. I had no reason to be suspicious. No reason to brace for the absolute gut punch that was coming. My dad leaned forward with that familiar calm face he always wore when he was about to lecture me about life being unfair. And then he said it. "We gave your tuition money to your brother. His business needs it more right now." Just like that. One sentence. No build-up. No apology. Just a cold, clinical statement like he was announcing the weather. I didn't even respond at first. I blinked. I remember staring at the salt shaker on the table because I couldn't look either of them in the eye. For a second, I thought maybe they were joking. But when I looked up, my mom had this strange expression, not guilty, not embarrassed. It was something closer to proud. "You should be happy," she said. "You're supporting the family in a big way. This is what being part of something bigger than yourself looks like." That's when it hit me. They weren't telling me this because they felt bad. They were telling me this because they thought I should be proud. Because in their eyes, I wasn't the one with dreams or goals anymore. I was just convenient. Let me back up a bit. My older brother, Jason, is 6 years older than me. Growing up, he was the golden child. Every mistake he made was a learning experience. Every time I got an A, he got a pizza party for remembering to take the trash out. When he dropped out of college after one semester to start a tech company in our garage, my parents acted like he'd discovered fire. They poured money into his startup like it was a trust fund, buying him gear, helping him rent office space, even co-signing a loan when things got tight. The company never really took off, but Jason always had a new pivot planned, a new idea that just needed a bit more runway. He wasn't lazy, I'll give him that, but he was reckless. He borrowed like nothing had to be paid back, promised things he couldn't deliver, and somehow always managed to convince our parents he was on the verge of something big. So when I got accepted into a great university, not Ivy League, but still competitive, and my parents assured me they had the first year covered, I believed them. I mean, why wouldn't I? I followed every rule. I played it safe. I stayed in my lane. And in return, I was supposed to get my shot. Instead, I got this. A morning lecture about making sacrifices served with eggs and toast. I asked one question. Just one. "So what am I supposed to do now?" My dad looked at me like I was being unreasonable. "Take a gap year. Get a job. Plenty of kids your age need time to figure things out." "I already figured it out," I said, barely recognizing my own voice. "I'm supposed to move in next week." "We know," my mom said gently, as if that made it any better. "And we're really sorry about the timing. But you're smart, Trevor. You'll find another way." The worst part wasn't the decision. It was how they acted like this was my opportunity to grow. Like being robbed of my future was some kind of character-building exercise. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded. Then I excused myself from the table, walked upstairs to my room, and closed the door. That was the moment everything changed. Because deep down, something inside me snapped. Not in a dramatic movie way, where I smashed a mirror or punched a wall. It was quieter than that. More final. Like a switch flipping off. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in bed, staring at the ceiling, going over every conversation I'd ever had with my parents that suddenly felt fake. All the times they told me they were proud. All the times they said, "We've got your back." It was like realizing your safety net was made of paper. The next morning, I started packing my bags. Not for college, for something else entirely. And that was the beginning. The beginning of a long year. The beginning of the silence between me and my parents. The beginning of me disappearing, not physically, but emotionally. I left the house with 2 suitcases, $1,000 from my grocery store job, and one rule burned into my mind. Never rely on anyone who treats you like a backup plan. And while my brother's business was burning money like a bonfire, I was about to start something of my own, something I didn't tell anyone about. Something quiet, something smart. Because if they wanted me to support the family, I'd show them exactly what that looked like. But not in the way they expected, not even close. I didn't have a plan, not a real one anyway, but I had drive and rage. The kind of quiet, patient anger that doesn't burn out fast, the kind that simmers for months, crystallizing into something sharp, something useful. I moved out the same day they dropped the bombshell. I didn't even give them a chance to ask where I was going. I just packed my laptop, my clothes, and the little money I had saved, and got in touch with a guy I used to work with at the grocery store, Connor, who had a spare room in his apartment across town. It wasn't glamorous. There was no air conditioning, and I had to sleep on a futon that creaked if I breathed too hard. But it was mine. And more importantly, it wasn't theirs. I didn't cut them off completely. At first, they texted a few times that first week, checking in like nothing happened. "How's the job hunt going? Let us know if you need anything." I didn't respond. I wasn't ready. I was too busy feeling stupid for trusting them. Too busy drowning in the bitterness I had no outlet for. I spent my days flipping between Craigslist gigs and YouTube videos about digital marketing, e-commerce, coding, anything that might lead to something more stable than stocking shelves. At night, I worked shifts at a local sandwich shop. I told Connor I was just figuring things out for a year before college. I didn't tell him why. I couldn't even say it out loud without feeling a weird mix of humiliation and fury, like I'd been cheated and then expected to thank the dealer. Meanwhile, Jason was everywhere. He was all over my parents' social media. My mom posted pictures of his office like it was NASA headquarters. My dad shared links to his company's website like he was launching the next Google. Every caption was dripping with pride. So proud of our oldest, chasing his dreams. Support small business. Check out Jason's new venture. It made me sick, not because he was succeeding, but because I knew he wasn't. I knew he was bleeding money, struggling to deliver on his overpromised contracts, scrambling to look legit while our parents threw everything at him like it was Monopoly cash. He wasn't evil, just spoiled. The kind of guy who never learned what no meant because no one ever said it to him. About a month after I moved out, my mom texted me a photo of Jason standing in front of a giant banner that said, "Genius Tech Solutions, Grand Opening." They rented out a co-working space downtown. Balloons. Ribbon-cutting ceremony. My parents were grinning in the background like they'd just won the lottery. I didn't reply. I didn't congratulate anyone. I just stared at that picture and realized how completely alone I was. And that's when something shifted. I could have kept sulking. I could have waited a year and tried again with scholarships and loans. But I knew better now. I knew if I wanted a future, I'd have to build it myself. Brick by brick. Out of spite, if nothing else. So I started learning. Obsessively. I'd always been tech-savvy. In high school, I ran a small tutoring side hustle, helped kids fix their phones, even built a few custom PCs. But now I started going deeper. I taught myself how to run Facebook ads, how to find winning dropshipping products, how to write sales copy that actually converts. I watched 10 hours of tutorials a day, took online courses I couldn't afford, and found other ways to access them. I tested every free trial known to man. Failed a lot. Lost money on bad product ideas. Ate way too many ramen cups. But I kept going. 3 months in, I launched my first real store. It was nothing flashy, just a niche gadget site selling portable humidifiers and phone holders. But I found a rhythm. I reinvested everything. Lived on pennies. I even canceled my Spotify subscription to save money and listened to motivational YouTube videos instead. The grind became addictive. And slowly, things started to click. By the 5th month, I was making more in a week than I used to make in a month at the sandwich shop. I didn't tell anyone. Not Connor, not my old friends, definitely not my family. This wasn't about bragging. It was about building something no one could take from me. Meanwhile, things at home got weird. My mom started calling again. At first, it was casual. A voicemail here, A message there. Hey honey, just checking in. Hope you're doing okay. Then it got more persistent. We haven't heard from you in a while. Can we meet up? Your dad's worried. And then one day, she sent this. Jason could really use your help. You're so good with computers. I read it 3 times. Laughed out loud. The audacity. I didn't respond. I didn't have to respond. Because at that point, I had something better, leverage. But I wasn't ready to use it yet. Not until the breaking point. That came 6 months later. I got a message from my cousin Erica. She was close with my parents. She babysat me when I was little, but we hadn't talked in years. She sent me a screenshot of a post from my mom's Facebook. Sometimes, family means making hard choices. We're so proud of both our sons, Jason, who's revolutionizing local tech, and Trevor, who's bravely taking a gap year to find himself. Supporting each other is what it's all about. My jaw clenched. Supporting each other. They were framing it like I had chosen to give up college. Like this was some noble self-sacrifice. Like I'd happily handed over my future so Jason could play CEO. And people were liking it. Commenting. You raised such generous boys. Trevor sounds like a sweetheart. I wanted to scream. But I stayed quiet. I stayed focused. Until the call came. It was a Tuesday. I was in the middle of fulfilling orders when my phone rang. My dad. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, he called again. Then again. Finally, I answered. Trevor, he said, breathing hard like he'd been running. I need to talk to you. It's about Jason. I didn't say anything. He hesitated, then sighed. His business, it's not doing well. Oh, really? He's behind on rent for the office space. The loan we co-signed is, well, the payments are piling up. I stayed silent. We were hoping, he said slowly, that you might be able to help. You've always been good with numbers. Maybe you could take a look at the books. See if there's anything we're missing. That was the moment. The exact second I felt the fracture in our family widen into a canyon. They had taken everything from me. My trust, my future, my tuition, and now that it was falling apart, they came crawling back. But it got worse. My mom called later that night. Her voice was soft, like she was trying to cast a spell. Sweetheart, we know things didn't go as planned, but Jason is your brother. He needs you. We all need you. I finally spoke. You gave him my college fund. There was a pause. Then a sigh. We loaned it to him. It was a family decision. No, it was your decision, I said, my voice shaking. I didn't agree to anything. We didn't think you'd be so rigid about it. Rigid. Like expecting your parents to honor their word was some kind of personality flaw. We've supported both of you in different ways, she added. Jason just needs more right now. And what do I need? I asked. There was silence. That was the real answer. I wasn't supposed to need anything. I was supposed to give. Be the stable one. The fixer. The background character in Jason's startup drama. It all came to a head a week later when I stopped by their house. I don't even know why I went. Maybe some part of me still wanted them to acknowledge it. To own what they'd done. To apologize. Instead, I walked into a full-blown intervention. Jason was there. So were my parents. The living room was clean like they were expecting company. My mom smiled the moment I stepped in. We're so glad you came. Sit down. I stayed standing. Jason looked exhausted. Bags under his eyes, laptop open in front of him. Trevor, man, he said, I messed up. I know I did. But I just need a little help. You're good at this online stuff. You've always been smart. My dad jumped in. We're not asking for much. Just a few ideas. Maybe you could help him restructure the business. There's still time. I looked at all of them. Did any of you ever think about helping me? They blinked. Like I'd spoken in another language. I needed help a year ago. I needed support. I needed you. But you didn't show up. My mom's smile faltered. Honey, we were trying to do what's best for the family. No, I said, my voice low, steady. You were doing what was best for Jason. And now that it's all collapsing, you think I'm your safety net. Again, Jason opened his mouth, but I cut him off. I'm not here to fix your mess. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your plan B. My dad stood, clearly annoyed. Don't be dramatic, Trevor. I laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being done. And with that, I walked out. They didn't follow. But 2 hours later, my mom sent one final message. We just want our family back. And I stared at it, heart pounding, fingers hovering over the screen. Because they were right. Something had broken. But not the way they thought. Not something that could be fixed with a conversation or a hug. Something deeper. And I knew, in that moment, that the next move would be mine, and it would change everything. The day I walked out of my parents' house after their little family meeting, I felt 10 feet tall. Angry, yes, still raw with betrayal, but finally free. Like I'd stopped waiting for something that was never going to come. Their approval, their support, their respect, it had always come with strings. Always conditional. Always tilted in Jason's favor. But that adrenaline wore off fast. 2 weeks later, I found myself sitting in the dark at 2 a.m. in the cramped apartment I shared with Connor, wondering what I was even doing. The glow from my laptop screen lit up the peeling paint on the wall. I had a Shopify dashboard open on one tab, a spreadsheet full of ad spend and conversion rates on another. It was the 5th day in a row I hadn't broken even. No sales. My ad account was flagged for unusual activity. My PayPal funds were on hold for fraud prevention. I had $213 in my bank account and no backup plan. That was rock bottom. Not just financially, but emotionally. Because up until that moment, I still carried this fantasy in the back of my mind that I'd win. That I'd make it big just to prove them wrong. But when your stomach growls and your rent is due and your store's checkout isn't working and no one is responding to your emails, all the revenge fantasies in the world start to feel like pipe dreams. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror brushing my teeth, and I barely recognized the guy looking back. Pale skin, heavy eyes. I looked like a ghost in my own life. That same day, Connor caught me in the kitchen, hunched over my phone, doom-scrolling job listings. He didn't say much, just grabbed a soda from the fridge and leaned against the counter. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah, I lied." He nodded. "Cool. You still doing that online business thing?" I shrugged. "Trying." He paused for a second, then said something I'll never forget. "Well, just don't forget to eat. Even gladiators need sandwiches." It was such a dumb line, but I smiled for the first time in days. That afternoon, I walked to the library. Not a coffee shop, not some co-working space, just a public library with weak Wi-Fi and flickering lights. I stayed there for hours, no distractions, no noise, just me, a notebook, and the determination to figure things out. I made a new plan, a better one. Instead of chasing trendy products or trying to get rich fast, I decided to build something small, stable, and honest. I studied SEO like my life depended on it. Watched videos on affiliate marketing, niche content sites, building email lists, optimizing landing pages. No more get-rich-quick junk. No more dropshipping junk from shady suppliers. Just real, valuable content. That's how I started my first info site. It was about portable camping gear, something I actually cared about. I wrote every article myself. Spent weeks compiling product reviews, learning about keyword clustering, backlink outreach, and the dark magic of Google's algorithm. It was slow going. For the first month, the site barely broke 20 visitors a day. But I stuck with it. Updated articles. Split-tested headlines. Found better affiliate programs. Focused on trust. Meanwhile, I picked up freelance gigs to keep the lights on. Copywriting, SEO audits. Even helping local businesses fix their broken websites. I was surviving again. Not thriving yet, but surviving. And then, a small miracle. 3 months into the site, one of my articles, Top 5 Ultralight Camping Stoves for 2022, got picked up by a bigger outdoor gear blog. They linked to it in a roundup post. Overnight, my traffic tripled. I made $180 that week in affiliate commissions. That's when I knew I had something. That small win became a spark. I kept building, wrote more articles, reached out to more blogs, hired a cheap editor from Upwork when I couldn't keep up, invested in a better theme, faster hosting, built a newsletter, launched a second site, this time in a totally different niche, minimalist productivity tools. By the end of that year, I was running 3 sites, one making $800 per month, one making $400, one barely breaking even. But together, they added up. I wasn't rich, but I didn't need to be. I was free. I'd built it all myself. No college, no degree, no help, and still not a single word to my parents. They didn't know what I was doing. For all they knew, I was still finding myself, still floundering around in some post-gap year days while Jason tried to revive his tech Frankenstein. But even that was unraveling. Through the grapevine, mostly Erica, my cousin, who kept in touch despite the tension, I found out Jason's business was imploding. His main client had pulled out. His rent was overdue by 4 months. The loan our parents co-signed was in default. There were rumors of him being sued over undelivered software. Apparently, he'd started showing up to family dinners looking like a shadow of himself. His girlfriend left. He moved back into my parents' basement, the same one where his startup began years ago. My parents? They were cracking too. My mom posted less and less. No more gushing captions about Jason's brilliant mind. My dad stopped answering texts from extended family, who were starting to ask uncomfortable questions about the money. And me? I moved into a better apartment. Got a new laptop, a standing desk, a potted plant I named Gordon. Even hired a virtual assistant to help with my third website. This one focused on home office gear. Irony wasn't lost on me. Jason had the flashy office with ribbon cuttings and glass walls. I had a quiet room, a decent chair, and consistent revenue. I thought about reaching out, thought about rubbing it in, but I didn't. I wasn't there yet, because as good as things were getting, part of me still hurt. I couldn't explain it to anyone, not even Connor. It wasn't just about the money or college. It was the betrayal. The fact that the people who raised me, who claimed to love me, had looked me in the eye and told me my dreams didn't matter, that my future was disposable, that my hard work was negotiable. That leaves a mark. It changes how you trust. It changes how you hope. But even scars can harden into armor. And eventually, I started to feel strong again. One day, about a year after I left home, I got a call. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Jason. His voice was shaky, quieter than I'd ever heard it. Hey, Trev. I know it's been a while. I don't know, man. Things are really bad right now. I messed up. I know I did. But I could really use some help. I listened to that message 6 times. Not because I was considering helping him. I wasn't. I listened because I wanted to understand what it sounded like when someone who'd always been handed everything finally ran out of hands to catch him. I never called him back, but I saved the message. It reminded me why I'd done all of this in the first place. Why I stayed up every night studying things no one taught me. Why I worked through panic attacks and $0 weeks and landlords who didn't care if you were figuring things out. Because they underestimated me. And that mistake was going to cost them. I wasn't the background character anymore. I was about to be the plot twist. Jason's voicemail sat in my inbox like a lit fuse that never quite went off. I listened to it every few days, not because I needed a reminder of how far I'd come, but because it grounded me. It reminded me that while I had spent the last year grinding in silence, growing in shadows, the people who wrote me off were now sinking in the mess they created. But I wasn't in a rush to gloat. Revenge, real revenge, isn't just about proving someone wrong. It's about letting them realize it themselves, slowly, painfully, without a lifeline. And that kind of reckoning takes patience, precision, a little bit of timing, and a whole lot of restraint. And now, finally, I had all 3. My first big opportunity came from a strange place, a LinkedIn message. One of the companies whose affiliate program I'd been working with reached out to ask if I'd be interested in consulting. Apparently, my site was driving them more sales than some of their bigger partners, and they wanted to know how. At first, I hesitated. I'd never done anything official like that. But the moment I saw their proposal, $3,000 for a 10-hour audit, I accepted. That single job paid 2 months' rent. That gig turned into 2 more. I suddenly had credibility, clients, referrals. But more importantly, I had an idea. It started as a joke, really. Connor and I were sitting in our apartment. He'd just quit his retail job to take a shot at app development. And I mentioned how funny it would be to make a public case study out of my journey. From betrayed to self-made. I called it. Connor laughed. You'd break the internet. I paused. No, seriously. What if I did tell my story? Not in a bitter way, but educational. Strategic. What if I turned everything they thought was my downfall into a blueprint for how to build something from nothing? He leaned forward. You'd get clients. Sponsors. Maybe a book deal. Maybe, I said, smirking. But more than that, I'd get eyes. Because if I was going to play this game, if I was going to dismantle their narrative and rewrite my own, I wanted them to see it. That night, I bought a new domain name. Something clean, professional. I started drafting the first of a multi-part blog series chronicling how I built my affiliate sites, how I handled burnout, how I navigated the minefield of online business without money or support. It wasn't emotional or bitter. It was surgical. Just the facts. Each post ended with a single line. No degree. No help. No excuses. The posts took off. First on Reddit. Then on Hacker News. Then a YouTuber in the finance niche made a reaction video titled, "The Kid Who Got Cut Off and Built an Empire." I gained over 10,000 email subscribers in 2 weeks. My site's traffic tripled. A company offered to buy one of them for mid-five figures. I said no, because I had bigger plans. Plans that involved finally stepping out of the digital shadows and into the room where decisions are made. So I started going to local meetups, SEO events, tech panels, even a couple startup expos. I was quiet at first, observing, learning how people talked when they thought you weren't worth noticing. But eventually, I started speaking, sharing insights, offering advice. Not the flashy, hustle bro kind of advice, but real, gritty knowledge. People respected it. Some even took notes. That's how I met Marissa. She was a UX designer who had just exited her startup and was looking for her next thing. We grabbed coffee after one of the meetups and hit it off instantly. Sharp mind, dry humor, no tolerance for fluff. Within a week, we were brainstorming ways to merge my content strategy with her design expertise. By the end of the month, we had a plan. A real company. We called it Dustproof, a digital product agency that built, scaled, and monetized niche content brands from scratch. I handled traffic and monetization. She handled branding and user experience. We split everything 50-50ths. It wasn't just about making money anymore. It was about proving a point. We weren't just building sites. We were building leverage. And now that I had it, I started preparing for the real revenge. It started, fittingly, with Jason. Thanks to Erica, who still floated in and out of our group chats, I found out he was trying to land a new investor. Apparently, some local business incubator was considering him for a $50,000 grant, hoping to help reboot struggling tech founders. Jason had pitched them a half-baked pivot, an AI-driven small business assistant app. Total buzzword salad. But they were eating it up because he was well-connected and had experience. Marissa raised her eyebrow when I told her. "He's seriously pitching AI now." "Oh yeah," I said. "He dropped out of college, burned through hundreds of thousands, got bailed out by his parents, and now he's selling himself as a visionary." She sipped her drink. "Let's bury him." I grinned. "Thought you'd never ask." First step? We built a competing concept. Same space, same market, better name, better branding, and more importantly, an actual MVP that worked. We didn't even try to hide it. We gave it a name just one syllable off from Jason's, similar enough to trigger curiosity, different enough to be legal. We made a beautiful landing page. We recorded demo videos. We published a blog post titled, "What Most Business Apps Get Wrong and How We Fixed It," complete with screenshots, testimonials, and a live waitlist. Then we ran ads. Cheap ones, targeted directly at the incubator's zip code. Within days, our version was all over their LinkedIn feeds. I even joined the incubator's public Slack channel using a pseudonym, just to lurk. And sure enough, 3 days later, someone posted, "Hey, has anyone seen this new tool? Looks super clean. Might be worth looking into before we finalize the next grant." Jason never saw it coming. Erica texted me the next morning. "Not sure if you were involved, but Jay is freaking out LOL." I didn't reply, just put my phone down and got back to work. Because as satisfying as it was to trip him up, he wasn't the real target. My parents were. They were the ones who bet against me, who told me I should be proud of giving up my future, who clapped at Jason's grand opening and ghosted me when I asked, "What am I supposed to do now?" I could have sent them a letter, an invoice, a link to the blog, but that would have been too easy. Instead, I waited for the perfect moment, and it came just in time for my cousin Mallory's wedding. She was getting married at a local vineyard, and everyone was invited. My entire extended family. Jason, my parents, even people I hadn't seen since middle school. Erica sent me a screenshot of the guest list and asked if I was going. I almost said no. The idea of walking into that event, surrounded by people who thought I was a dropout drifting through life, it made my skin crawl. But then I had an idea. A proper setup. I called Marissa. "How do you feel about a little show and tell?" She laughed. "I love drama. What are you thinking?" "I want to arrive like a ghost turned millionaire." "Oh," she said, grinning through the phone. "We're doing a reveal." So we planned it. We bought a new suit, tailored, sleek, no logos, no flash, just presents. Marissa helped me write a bio card for the event, a little folded piece of paper that introduced Dustproof as a sponsor of the venue's upcoming small business retreat. I made sure they included our site and my name, Trevor Lane, co-founder. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I didn't RSVP. I just walked in. And when I did, every conversation in a 10-foot radius slowed to a crawl. Because the last time they saw me, I was the kid who vanished before college. The one who gave up his tuition. Who took a gap year to figure things out. Now I look like someone you Google. And Jason? He was at the bar, nursing a drink, looking like a man 2 steps away from a nervous breakdown. Our eyes met. He blinked. I nodded. No words. My mom was halfway across the room, talking to some great-aunt I barely remembered. When she finally noticed me, her face went through a full 4-stage reaction. Confusion, recognition, forced smile, and something close to panic. I walked over. Calm. Civil, like someone who didn't need anything from anyone. Trevor, she said, breathless. I didn't know you were coming. I wasn't sure either, I said smoothly. But one of the event sponsors invited me. Her face twitched. Oh, she said. I let that hang in the air. My dad joined her a moment later. His smile was tighter, more forced. Son, he said, it's good to see you. Likewise. He tried to ask more, but I turned to greet someone else, the event planner, and handed her my bio card to confirm my table. She took one look, smiled, and said, Oh, you're the guy from Dustproof. We've heard so much about your work. My parents went silent. It wasn't about flaunting anything. It was about presence, about reclaiming the space I was pushed out of, about making them watch. Because the show was just beginning. The wedding reception unfolded like a stage play, and I was done playing the background character. My parents sat stiffly at their table across the room, barely sipping their drinks. Jason hovered nearby, clearly rattled, glancing toward me every few minutes like I was a ghost he couldn't quite banish. A few of our cousins made small talk with me, polite, curious, awkward. One of them, Devin, leaned in with a smirk and said, Didn't you drop out or something? What are you up to now? I didn't say a word. I just gestured toward the Dustproof placard at the table, where my name sat beside a short description of the company I co-founded, and where a subtle QR code led directly to a case study titled, The Tuition That Wasn't. How Losing Everything at 18 Helped Me Build a $500,000 content portfolio before 21. It was gentle. I hadn't named names. No rants, no Reddit posts. No spiteful breakdowns. Just clean data. Neutral tone. Documented timeline. But anyone with half a brain could read between the lines. And judging by the look on Jason's face when he scanned the code, yes, I saw him do it. He definitely had half a brain. The fallout started 2 days later. I got a text from my dad. We need to talk. Face to face. I didn't reply. Then my mom. Your post. People are asking questions. Please take it down. That made me laugh. Take it down? After they framed me as the selfless little brother who nobly stepped aside for the future entrepreneur of the family? No, this was the reckoning. And it wasn't even personal anymore. It was structural, clean, unavoidable. Because the moment the case study went viral, people started connecting dots. Erica told me Jason's former contractor, the one he ghosted after promising stock options, shared the link on Twitter with the caption, Oh, so this is why he never paid me. A day later, the local startup incubator that had been considering Jason for a second round of funding posted a quiet update on their website announcing a pause on external investments pending internal review. Translation, Jason wasn't just off the list. He torched the list. Meanwhile, a few of Jason's early investors, most of them local dentists and real estate guys my dad played poker with, were not happy. The case study didn't name them, but it traced the path of money through vague phrases like family-backed startups with no KPIs, and early investors promised high returns with zero oversight. Anyone involved knew exactly who that was about. One of them, Dr. Kelman, apparently cornered my dad at a neighborhood barbecue and asked point blank, Did you give your kids tuition to Jason's startup? My dad didn't answer. But silence, in those circles, speaks volumes. I started hearing from people. Old teachers. A few of my high school classmates. Even one of Jason's exes. They all reached out with some variation of, I read your article. I had no idea. Because that was the power of the truth. Not shouted, not dramatized, just documented. Calm, measured, unapologetic. And that calm, more than anything, is what unraveled them. Jason tried to respond, sort of. He published a blog post of his own. A half-hearted, jargon-filled mess titled Entrepreneurship is Messy, Lessons from a Startup That Didn't Go as Planned. It was full of vague apologies and phrases like pushing boundaries and building under pressure and learning from challenges. No one bought it. In fact, the comments were brutal. This is what happens when you play with other people's money. Your brother had every right to speak up. You owe him more than an apology. You didn't fail because you took risks. You failed because you took people. My parents, though, they didn't respond publicly. That wasn't their style. But they felt it. The calls stopped. The texts dried up. My mom unfriended half the extended family on Facebook. My dad shut down his LinkedIn. At first, I thought it was shame. But it wasn't. It was control slipping through their fingers, quietly, relentlessly. And as they shrank inward, my world expanded. I accepted a speaking invitation at a digital entrepreneurship conference in Austin. Shared the stage with founders twice my age. Dinners, panels, interviews, all of it surreal. And all of it earned. Marissa and I grew Dustproof into a full-blown operation. We hired 2 writers, a project manager, and a sales lead. By the time my 21st birthday rolled around, our monthly revenue had crossed $50,000, not including affiliate commissions or licensing deals. And the best part? I never told my parents. Not directly. I never called them to brag. Never texted, "Told you so." Never dropped bank statements in the group chat. Because silence was louder. Distance was louder. And dignity? Dignity screamed. One last thing happened that made me realize the story had come full circle. It was a Saturday morning when I saw the listing. Jason's startup, what was left of it, was being liquidated. Office furniture, monitors, a few standing desks. All of it posted on Facebook Marketplace under a burner account with no profile picture. I bought one of the desks. Had it delivered to the Dustproof office. Marissa thought it was a weird move, but I told her, some things just belong where they're finally useful. And now, every time I sit at it, this sleek, slightly scuffed $1,200 ergonomic relic of his failed empire, I smile. Because this was my revenge. Not noise, not spectacle, just quiet, undeniable success. The kind they couldn't ignore, the kind they couldn't touch, the kind that reminded them, every single day, that they bet against the wrong sun. And they lost.